Why is Downing Street painted black? You want to know, right? You really, really want to know. My name's Nadine Matheson and I'm the host of The Conversation Coffee Break. And my guest today, joining me for a coffee break, is author and London tour guide Jonnie Fielding, aka Bowl of Chalk. And when I mean that, he's an amazing tour guide. He really is. And you need to follow him on Instagram and TikTok and watch his fantastic videos because I promise you, I absolutely promise you, you will learn something new every single time. And it's not just your usual academic, bit boring historical facts. They're really fun facts. And as I said, his new book is out now. If you go to the show notes, you can click on the link and buy a copy of his book from my shop on bookshop.org and just enjoy the show. And if you have any suggestions for a guest who you think should join me for a coffee break, then you can send me an email at theconversation@nadineMatheson.com. And always don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, tell your friends about not only the coffee break episodes, but the conversation, the OG podcast. Now enjoy the show. So, Jonnie Fielding, aka Bowl of Chalk, welcome to the coffee break.
Thank you very much, Nadine Matheson.
The reason why Johnny's talking to me like this is because he knows me. He's known me for years.
Well, when was it? COVID 2020 writing course thing. Yeah,
it was. We did
those heady days. It's gone so quick.
It has flown by, hasn't it? Because that would have been 5 years ago when we
The
met on that
amazing thing
speaking
is,
screenwriting course.
when I met you, you said that I'd got my. You said I'm being you now. So it's not me. I've got my first book coming out next year, which was your first Angelica Henley book, and now you're on about book 25. It's like I don't know how you've done that. It's amazing. It's so dangerous around Deptford. Yeah.
So much danger in South East London.
Yeah, man.
But speaking about London, because those who know, Jonnie Fielding is known as the Bowl of Chalk, and he is an amazing, amazing tour guide. And you have a new book coming out.
I do. Yeah.
Called Why is
Just
Downing
coincidentally.
Street?
Yeah.
Just coincidentally.
Yeah. Just yeah.
So, Jonnie, would you like to tell the listeners about your new book? Why is Downing Street painted black? And 364 fun London facts.
I always do that as well. I forget that the first one is. I've got one here that I can show. Will it come out backwards?
Yeah, no. Show it.
It will.
Go ahead.
It looks like this. And it doesn't come with that in. That's for you. There's something in that's the. Yeah. So there we go. So it's basically. I'm getting told I call it a toilet book, but it is apparently a gifting book. So as the name would suggest, it is fun facts about London. So what happened? I've been doing tours for about 15 years now, and for the first, did you want me to tell you this? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the first 10 years was just completely word of mouth, and I didn't advertise. Obviously, I wasn't massively busy, but I was fine because I did a lot of writing, which never went anywhere. And then I lost all my business, and other tour guides were busier than me. And 2 years after COVID, so 2022, 23, and I thought I've really got to do something. So I decided to sit down and try and work out what these people were doing that was making them busy. And it took me at least 10 seconds just to work out they actually use social media, which I'd never done. And then I had this idea of posting a fun fact every day for a year, and I accidentally became a fun fact guy. So and then people started, it became quite popular. And then the really lovely thing about it is that when COVID sort of struck, for want of a better word, a lot of my people who came on my walks were tourists. So they were Americans on holiday, and I hadn't really, very few Londoners. It's really difficult to get people to explore their own city.
But
then more and more people started getting intrigued and interested through these videos. And then I do walks on weekends for Londoners, and mostly they come on there.
Well, I have to amend these questions for you because obviously you've written a non-fiction book.
Yeah.
But You know, what you just said, that it's really hard to get. I'm saying Londoners to
Mm,
come on your walking tours, because I was talking about
yeah.
this the other day to a friend, and my best friend, she needed something to do with the kids over the summer
Mm.
holidays, like run out of things to do now,
Oh
and she
yeah.
decided to just, you know what, I'm going to go on one of those London tour buses with them.
Yeah. Mm.
And she said it was one of the most, like, they had such a great time, and I learnt so many things, because you can live in a city, and it's probably any city in the world. You can live in a city, be part of that city, grow up in that city, born and bred, but you don't do the touristy things. Like you'll
Mm.
never do it unless you've got a family member coming over.
It's yeah, it's sometimes not even the touristy things. It's just that so there's that as well, but also
Mm,
people exist and they're going to work and they just don't look at details and things, which is what I started doing many, many moons ago. And little things that people walk past and they don't notice or go through a gate. You stick to all the main roads or whatever, or just get the tube and
yeah.
then pop out. You don't know what's in the middle. So yeah,
But it's also interesting facts about the tube.
yeah,
Like, why is the
there are.
Strand? What happened to the
Well,
Strand tube station?
oh, I thought you were going to say, "Why is it called Strand?"
No.
Well, well, they we have what we call lost tube station. You know that they went out of service, stopped being used, changed names. Often names
Yeah.
changed. So Waterloo Bridge was Strand Bridge, or for instance, like St Paul's wasn't called St Paul's; it was called Post Office because it
Was
was
it
by the
really?
post. Yeah, yeah, it's by the HQ of the post office, which is now Bank of America, I think. And then
Mm.
St Paul's already existed because it was what's now called Blackfriars. And then they changed it to St Paul's, so then Blackfriars had to change. And it kind of have this knock on effect, and they keep changing names. And there's quite a number of ones that are old, and they use them in film sets and stuff because they're left in the 1930s or. So the ones you often see on films, historical films, are these like Old Witch or whatever, these old tube stations that don't no one uses anymore. That you can go
You know,
down.
when you're watching movies, and I'm gonna say Mission Impossible. 'Cause Mission Impossible always
Ah,
pops into my head. They always like, and the Bourne Identity. They always love a London, supposed to be Waterloo, Liverpool Street
yeah.
scene. What is the thing that irritates you most as a tour guide of London? What irritates you most when you're watching these sort of movies and they're doing their London scene?
Well, it doesn't. Right, if I can backtrack a little bit. So my grandpa who died, he lived to 101 and a half, but he grew up in Oxford in the 1920s. And then he used to what? And this is a crime. So you would like a crime.
Yeah,
Colin Dexter, Inspector Morse.
yeah.
And when John Thaw was doing Inspector Morse, he used to get so angry because he'd go, Inspector Morse has walked round that corner and now he's somewhere completely different. That should be this road. And that, and it's like, Grandpa, don't worry about it. It's just TV. Don't worry. But now, not so much that. I remember with Luther, is it Luther? With Idris Elba?
Yeah.
And that's set around Hackney and East London a lot, where I spent 20 years. And I would get slightly annoyed by the fact that he'd be in his car driving along, and then the next scene he's actually gone back 100, half a mile, and he's back doing it again. It's just the continuity stuff. But I love watching things about London, and I love it in a slightly geeky way that I play a little game with myself in how many seconds it takes me to know where they are. And if I can't get it, I start getting annoyed. So that probably is more thing that because then I'm thinking about that. But there
You know,
are
I
certain places like the Inns
mhm,
of Court. The Inns of Court get
yeah.
used a lot in Lincoln's Inn, Inner Temple, Middle Temple, because they these 11 acres of streets and buildings, and they can shut them at weekends, and no one goes in, and they're not bothering anyone. So yeah.
Where I live in, say, Deptford, Greenwich, it gets used a lot. Like, I
Mm,
just grew up with, every couple of weeks you'll get a letter. I still now, you get a letter through the door from a production company saying, "We're gonna be
yeah.
filming in your street. Would you like blackout curtains?" And the one time I said no, I didn't want the blackout curtains, I regretted it. Because in the middle of the night, these massive spotlights were suddenly shining through my bedroom window.
Well, you wait, few years, they'll be filming all your novels, won't they, around there? And everyone will be cursing Nadine Matheson for her Inspector. Angelica Henley, whoever, you know.
I
I
look
always want
forward
to
to
call
that
her
time.
Angelica Houston. There is someone called Angelica Houston, isn't
Yeah,
there?
there is an actress.
Yeah, yeah.
I
In
know.
my head, I always want to call her that. Anyway,
So
sorry.
Johnny,
Go on.
who came
Hello.
to you with who came to you with the book? Did publishers approach you, or did you approach publishers?
I've been approaching publishers for years with books because no one was interested because I wasn't as popular. Um, and then what happened is I had a few publishers. I won't say who they were. I had
Mm,
meetings with who contacted me, and then I had meetings with them on like this, and then I had an agent contact me called Charlie Viney, and he specialises in sort of non-fiction stuff, and he sort of said, "Would you, have you ever thought about writing a book?" And so I said, "Well, I've been writing them for years, just no one's ever read them." So anyway, so we met up, and then I was kind of thinking, and I was like, what if I've got publishers contacting me already, why would I go with an agent? But then I
yeah.
spoke to a few people in the and they were like, it's a no-brainer. So anyway, so we did that. Then me and Charlie put together a sort of proposal for a fun fact book because we went, well, that would be that was makes sense because I've become this fun fact kind of guy.
Mm.
So a fun fact book, and then he took it to the London Book Fair, and I think it was something like 21 publishers were interested.
Oh wow.
And then and then they were sort of writing via him to tell me why I should go with them, which was quite a turn up.
You know when you've been writing for so long and you've been
Yeah,
getting no, and I don't mean it to sound horrible, but yeah, you've been getting nowhere
yeah.
with your books. What does it do to you, or how do you feel when after all this time of no's, you're being met with 21 publishers saying we want you?
The thing, yeah, one I guess I'd written a lot of fiction stuff previously. So this
Mm,
is also I had written non-fiction. I wrote a book about the Thames and walking the Thames, and I've written other stuff. So it's not completely unique. And I've mostly it's been plays and TV and film and theatre. That is plays, isn't it?
yeah,
TV dramas and all
yeah,
that, and novels as well, which haven't gone anywhere. So the weird thing is, and I think people have found me incredibly not. I don't think I've necessarily come across as the most enthusiastic person at the best of times. I think I approach things in a real like a everything's going to be really bad. So that I'm always constantly surprised and
yeah,
pleased by how things turn out. So, and I think because of the 20 years of, and I can't even remember, I did count them at some point, but unfortunately people stopped writing rejection letters. Yeah, long time ago. It was like, if you don't hear from us, just assume.
you just don't
And
hear
I
from them.
actually took, no, and I actually was quite proud of my collection. I think I've got about 300 or so. And I wanted to just see how many I could get. And now I've been denied that opportunity. Anyway, so it was very pragmatic and like, okay, hang on, I got a fly there. It was great, but also until I actually walk into a bookshop and it is there, I'm not going to believe any. I'll do all the things required of me, and it's a long process of like a couple of years. And they go, right, we need you to do this, then we need you to do this, and then this needs to happen, and then this, and I'll just do each one, and then I'll get on to the next. So I haven't ever really thought massively long term. It's just
Yeah.
like getting each stage, and yeah, just take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, really. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, no, it does. It does. So you know when you realise that, and so when the light bulb went off that
Mm,
you should be on social media, were you
mm.
surprised by how quickly like your popularity grew?
No.
No, oh my god.
So I'm kidding. um, it just took the world a while to wake up, Nadine. No, I think one of yeah, I absolutely was. I think the weird thing was as well that I did it very much for my own benefit to feel I was doing something useful.
Yeah,
Because I'd lost all my business. I was like, I didn't actually really think people would be interested in watch it. It was more for me that I'm doing something and a sort of positive thing to move things forward. Um, and I think that, like anything, I think that if you just are very true to yourself and you do things in a way that you are, and I didn't try to be anyone else. And from what I've heard from people, the fact that that's the thing that's resonated with people. It feels very genuine, and
It does.
I'm not trying to be clever or do this or and I come I don't know and I basically just did videos in the same way I do walks, which is the way I talk to people. Which when I'm doing walks, sometimes people actually say, Johnny, you seem to have started about 6 sentences, and we're not aware that any of them have finished. So it's quite idiosyncratic. Obviously, I don't
Yeah.
do that as much on videos. I don't do it on videos, but I don't have a script, so
Yeah.
I don't write a script. I literally edit the video in what's in my head, and then I just speak over the top. And the other
Yeah.
thing as well was that I also not appearing in quite a lot of my own videos
No,
for
we don't see you.
no. So I've had a thing recently over the last year of people recognizing my voice, but they don't know what I look like. So I've been recognized just by my voice, which is
It's
quite odd.
weird. It happened to me at Harrogate. Was it Harrogate? Yeah, Harrogate. Someone said, "I know you. I know your voice." And I was like,
Oh
"What?" And
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, what are they talking?" And I was like, "Oh, the podcast." And that's a bit
yeah,
weird. That
yeah.
your voice, it sticks with people. Right. So
Mm,
I do have a question. This is one of
okay.
our traditional coffee break question, and it will work with you. What's the most
Oh,
random fact you now know because of this book?
oh. Well, the thing is, there's so many I know. It's actually almost impossible.
Pick
And I
one.
actually, oh, pick one. It won't be. I'll pick one that's in the book. Or
Okay.
do you, or do you, um, there are things. There are often reasons why things are the way they are, and people don't know it. So, a very one that's in the book is that the current St Paul's Cathedral is actually
Mm,
120 feet smaller than the one that was there that burned down in the Great Fire. But the one that is there today is 365 feet tall because it represents each day of the year. Because the guy who built it, Christopher Wren, was professor of astronomy at Oxford University. So he did it on purpose. It represents the calendar year. Or, for instance, Monument is 202 feet tall because if it was to fall over, it would be land where the bakery was where the fire started. So, just for starters, there's
really?
things, yeah, things like that. Yeah.
Our school, my secondary school, St Michael's in Bermondsey, you're getting a shout out. They used to take us to the monument. Take us
Mm,
on walks, and we'd
yeah.
go up like that was our school trip, going up to the monument and
311
coming down
stairs.
again.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Got a
didn't
certificate though.
realise that.
Yeah.
Mm,
Um,
okay, so
So and also, yeah, I did.
no, go on.
There is one as well that I was going to mention because I actually told you this quite a few years ago, just because I thought it had a connection to your own books,
Yeah.
which is the one about which is in the I have so the book's split up into different sections, so like royalty, Americans, height, tall, big, I don't know, things like one is crime and punishment, and one is the fact that the Deptford High Street is where the first ever murder conviction was made in 1905, based on fingerprinting evidence, which had never ever happened ever before.
See, that's a cool fact.
So that
That's a cool fact
and
I like.
yeah, and it was a robbery of a cash register at 34 Deptford High Street that went wrong. And there were two brothers, Alfred and Albert Stratton, and they left. It turned into a murder because the Thomas and Anne Farrow, who lived upstairs, came down, and they were but there was a fingerprint, I think, of Alfred on the cash box. And at the time, it seems funny now, but this was in its absolute infancy.
Mm,
That everyone would have a completely individual thing that would mark you out as different from everyone else in the world, and that it wasn't enough to he had to the guy in charge was called Detective Collins, and he had to massively convince the jury and everyone else that this is actually a piece of evidence that can be used. Never been done
that's so,
before in the UK, anyway.
it's crazy. And to think now, it's a fingerprint. It's nothing. There's
No,
nothing controversial about it,
no.
really, in terms of
I guess
identifying anyone.
that's the first of anything. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you a first that I do like that's in the book.
What's that?
because I've got a thing of firsts. First one-way street in London was Albemarle Street in Mayfair, because on Albemarle Street you have something called the Royal Institution, which was set up in the 18th century so that the public could come and experience scientific um, experiments and learn about science and all these new endeavours. And there was a guy called Humphrey Davy, who was a bit he actually found like four of our elements that we have, and the Davy lamp that miners use.
Yeah,
But he was also very much that women should be allowed to be educated and be experience all this stuff.
that's
Big
good
up.
of him.
He was. Turns out though, Humphrey Davy was what I would refer to as a chemistry hottie. And that actually the women were coming to the RI, the Royal Institution, nothing because of him. And that it caused what I read unbecoming scenes outside. So many women trying to get in that it was stopping the traffic, and they had to make the street one way just because of this
Oh,
incredibly hot scientist. So there's things like that are in the book. You know,
but those are
that's one of
fun.
them.
Those are really, really fun facts. I think that's what
Mm.
probably makes you so good. It's not, it doesn't come across as being very, very. I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't sound offensive, but
Cerebral.
academic.
Not, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is an excellent point and very well made. Is that I came to this in a very, very non-academic way.
Mm,
I wasn't. I wasn't academic, but I would say I didn't massively function. I did at school in a. It didn't. It took me a long time until my probably late 20s, early 30s to realise that I have to do things in my own way,
yeah.
how I want to do them. And if I'm interested in something, I'll learn about it. And I learned about London not by studying academically, but by exploring and going into buildings and chatting to people. And in some cases, being escorted out because I wasn't
I was
supposed
going to
to be
ask
there.
you, how
Yeah,
many
yeah, yeah,
times have
yeah.
you been told, "Get out"? What are you
Only if,
doing? Get my
only a,
camera out of your face. Or
yeah, yeah,
get
only
your
a
camera
few
out my face.
times. I think probably because I learned after that. What there basically were private members clubs and private banks. It turns out you're not really just supposed to wander into some of these places and just start mooching about. Um, but other people were very helpful and lovely shops, and they were. Or sometimes I'd go in and say, "What's that thing that you've got on your wall?" And they would like, "What thing?" And then we'd go out and they were, "I've never seen that," and then or they would have an amazing story and you'd learn about it that way. Obviously, I bought and have built up a ridiculous amount of books as well.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So, and the other thing that's happened latterly is because of my videos, I've received a huge amount of London books from people who have died from their carers or family members who now need to find a new home for this deceased person's books, and they know that it will go to a good home. So I've had about 3 lots of books from people like that. One
Wow.
guy drove all the way from Norwich to give them to me.
Oh, wow.
I think he had a few
Jonnie.
other books. Yeah.
Yeah. Jonnie,
Sorry. Yeah.
because you are, it's, when you're doing your stuff on Instagram, it's obviously it's all very visual. Did you find it hard, like condensing that information into a book?
Um. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think also it was so. Some of them are, directly from some of the videos, but the publisher wanted a load of new ones that I'd never
Mm,
done, and in a way, those were easier because I was starting from scratch
yeah.
rather than watching a video, and then also because the way I do videos is not how you would write, so then I had to sort of redo them and rewrite them, um, and actually a lot of it is about a turn of phrase or the way that I speak, which also maybe doesn't translate necessarily. So I've tried to do it in the same sort of way, fun way, slightly light-hearted. Yeah, but it
Okay.
was, yeah. I don't know if I answered that very well.
No, you did. You did
Okay. Oh, I
answer it
did.
well.
Okay.
Okay, right. So I have a new thing for the coffee
All
break,
right.
which are listener questions. So I
Okay.
asked the listeners of the conversation if they had any questions for Jonnie Fielding, Bowl of Chalk, and they did. So I have two. So one is from Tom in Leeds, and he asked, when you're out guiding people around London, do you ever stumble across a story you've never heard before?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I love it. And I think the thing is, you've got 2,000 years or more of history. You're never going to know it all, and
Yeah,
I'm constantly learning things, but also, um, people tell. I think I love also is that obviously I'm talking about buildings and history and things like that, but London or any city or anywhere is a very personal thing to different people that no one's going to know about. And I've had people tell me stories. We had our first date in here. My wife proposed to me on this bench. Doesn't mean anything to anyone else. And I'm not going to
yeah.
necessarily tell everyone on walks, but I kind of like it. One of them actually that turned up in the book was a woman from Australia who told me about one of her ancestors called Robert Cocking that I'd never heard of, who, unfortunately for him, became the first ever person to die in a parachute accident.
I'm not
Unfortunately,
laughing. I'm not laughing.
no, I know it's horrible. Anyway, so then, yeah, I wouldn't have known about him if she hadn't told me about him. And then I looked him up, and obviously it's a known thing, and and then I included it in the book
But
as a
oh,
fun fact.
I think that is a fun. And I was trying not to laugh, but I can't help it. Okay, another one from Layla in Islington, London. What's your favourite London spot that always gets the best reaction on your tours?
It depends who it's with. So let's say, for instance, it's American tourists.
Hmm.
Anything vaguely old, an old pub. Do you know Gordon's Wine Bar down
No.
in Embankment? Oh, you should go to Gordon's Wine Bar. It's a sort of little hidden cave just by Embankment, near Embankment Station. It's been there since 1890, and you go down and you can feel the trains, and it feels like you can feel the history, and it's got candles, and it's all you have to bend down, and everyone's sat there, and often tourists will wet themselves going in there going, "Oh my god, so quaint," sorry, sort of American accent, But so just things like that. There's things that are very idiosyncratic that they wouldn't necessarily have. And then in terms of Londoners, it's quite often really simple things that they haven't ever noticed or looked at. Trying to think like what I call street antiques. Just like boot scrapers or wide windows above the Georgian houses because they predate lamps, or coal holes, or fire protection badges when we didn't have a fire brigade and you paid a company money to come and put your fire out and you had your insurance number. You still
Really?
have those. Yeah, they're still all over London. Or the bollards that we have
Yeah.
were upcycled cannons, and that's why they're always sticky uppy with a ball on the top, because there are actually lots of actual cannons around London with cannonballs in them, and the trunnions and stuff that's hooked it onto the ship. Just stuff like that people have never. One of them, my favourite one, is by Southwark Bridge, and it hasn't got the cannonball in. It's massive, and it's basically the most antique naval ashtray in London. Everyone sticks all their fag ends in the top. It's just always brimming with cigarette butts, and I don't think anyone's ever thought about that. This is a sort of early 1800s cannon that they're using as an ashtray. So things like that.
That is so. I honestly think it's so cool. I love history. Like I just genuinely just love history. Um, what is your favourite fact about where you live?
Well, where I live in Catford, and amazingly, I did a video about Catford. Which is that in Catford there are you go. There used to be a pub called the Nine Lives. There's the massive Catford cat at the shopping
There is.
centre. There's cats everywhere. There's cat sculptures. There's the Black Cat pub. There's cats like everywhere, but it has nothing to do with cats. Um, so obviously, where you are, Deptford is a deep crossing. That's why all the shipbuilding
Yeah.
was there. And so Ford is a crossing on a river. So Oxford, what I mentioned where my grandpa grew up, is for oxen to cross the river. It'd be very unlikely to have a crossing just for cats across a river. But so it's actually cattle. It's been shortened from cattle, so it has nothing to do with cats. But everyone seems to. And anyway, and then I did a video just about that, and it became incredibly popular just because lots of people then decided to write to me going, "Why are you encouraging people to go to Catford?" I didn't say I lived there, and I got loads of Catford hate. It was awful. It was ridiculous. Anyway,
I didn't know it was about the cattle. In fact, it just didn't occur to me like why Catford was called Catford.
yeah. So it's the Ravensbourne River. which
Yeah.
flows out down to near you,
Yeah, it
Deptford.
does. It does by
Yeah.
creek.
And it comes straight past us. And in fact, when I come out of the thing just by the Sainsco, in the river, there's lots of rubbish and stuff in it. But I saw there's this little beautiful egret, little white. It's like a little mini heron with a
Yeah.
plume that hangs out in the river down there. It's quite cool. Anyway,
Do you I'm trying to think, is there a fact I'm gonna say like an unusual fact that you know about I'm saying about my area, about the whole Greenwich area?
wow. Greenwich. Well, it was actually probably the weirdest thing is St. Alfred. You know the St. Alfred's Church,
Yeah,
which is the main church in Greenwich,
yeah.
and how St. Alfred became a saint and was killed. He was literally beaten to death by Vikings with bones. I
And
think.
he became a saint.
I think so. Yeah, I now I'm saying it. I think we need. He basically was taken
Fact
hostage
checked.
by Vikings. Yeah, yeah. I'm just making it up now. He was taken hostage, and they basically said, "You need to give us this, otherwise we won't give this Alfage guy back." And Alfage went, "Nah, don't worry about it. It's fine." And then they had a big feast and then beat him to death with the bones or something. It was just like, wow, that's a way to
Did-
go, isn't it?
they didn't teach us that in school.
Also, Greenwich is very Wick or Witch is a trading place. So Oldwich is old trading place. That was
Yeah.
Luddenwick, and then it's Green trading place. Oh, Greenwich. This is a good one. Greenwich was actually the park. You know, we have all these 11 royal parks, and it became a park in the. Now I'm trying to remember it. It's 1420s. It's been a park that long because they were all hunting grounds, and the Greenwich Park literally became a park in the early 15th
I think
century.
they only just reintroduced the Dares back into
This
Greenwich
year,
Park the
yeah.
other day.
And there was a big hoo-ha when they had the Olympics and chopped down some ancient trees, I think, as well. Wasn't
My
there?
complaint about I love the Olympics. My only complaint about the Olympics was that we had permit free parking and then the council decided, oh, just for the Olympics, we're gonna give everyone permits. Nope.
As it stayed.
Of course it stayed. And they
Yeah,
kept
yeah,
putting the
yeah.
price up.
Oh, okay.
Right, so Johnny,
Hello.
what message or feeling do you hope readers take away from the book?
Well, basically, that it will get them excited about either a city that they live in or a city that they might visit or have visited, and they will get to know it better and hopefully find it as intriguing and become as curious as I have been, would be my hope.
Okay.
Um, so I've actually at the back of the book there's a QR code, and me and my mate Justin have put together. I've done some hand drawn map. In fact, I've got one here, black and white. I've made these maps,
Oh, that's so cool.
but they're done in colour. And
Yeah.
then on the back, for instance, you can either print them out or download them onto your phone. And I've done 4 walks that only include things from the book, and then it references the page number, so you can go on your own walk and discover, in your own pace, and discover stuff.
Do you know, do you have kids that come along on your walks?
Yeah, yeah.
What facts interest them the most? Are they the most entertained by?
Depends on the kid, but I think weirdly kids like gory stuff, and they
Yeah.
love the fact that there were heads on spikes around on the gates around the city, things like that. And the
Yeah.
amazing thing about kids is if I have a big group and there's kids and parents, and I ask questions, the kids will all be putting their hand up wanting to answer, and the parents generally don't know, and they're like, "How the hell do they know?" And it's because they watch horrible histories
Oh, yeah, they
and
do.
all the kids. It's amazing, and they just imbibe this stuff, and it's all songs, and it's fun, and it's interesting, and they just osmosis. It just goes in, and they just remember it. It's great.
Okay. So,
But yeah,
right, before we get to our final question, why is Downing Street painted black? Or is
well,
number 10 Downing Street painted black?
no, the whole street.
Oh, the whole street.
Well, on one side, yeah. I mean, officially, I should say you got to buy the book, shouldn't I? To find out.
But there's 364 facts.
Okay, seeing as it's you,
Thank you
Um,
so much.
the Downing Street was originally a cul-de-sac that was developed in the late 17th century by a politician called George Downing. And so it had three sides to it. You couldn't go all the way through.
Mm.
And when it was first built, it was yellow. It was like a yellowy terracotta color, sort of yellow ochre. And eventually, over the years, they knocked down two bits, so we've got the bit that's just left. And in the 1960s, the first PM, or first Lord of the Treasury is actually the name, was in the 1730s, Robert Walpole. But they've been at number 10 Downing Street ever since. They've actually swapped because Tony Blair moved. Did you know this? That Tony,
Yeah.
yeah, so they swapped because Gordon Brown's flat was bigger. So either way, in the 1960s, that whole block, number 10, number 11, all those rooms and everything was just massively dilapidated. And it was ripe for just being knocked down and starting again, but they couldn't because so they were cleaned it. They did a lot of work on it, and they cleaned off 300 years of pollution to reveal this yellowy orange brick. And they didn't feel that they could now, after all this time, change the colour of that everyone thought it was black. And so they literally painted it pollution coloured. And that's why it's painted black. Because
That's
it's
why.
it's one of the most famous addresses in the UK. And they couldn't suddenly one day just go, oh, by the way, guys, it's actually yellow now. So, well, they could, but they didn't. So
But
that's
they
it. That's
couldn't.
why. That's why.
Right. I had another question from you for a listener. I knew I had another one somewhere. Okay. From Daniel, all the way in Melbourne. So, if you could design a dream tour outside of London, anywhere in the world, where would it be? And why? They wanted a why.
Oh, wow. Well, Daniel, in Melbourne, it would have to be Melbourne, wouldn't it? Um, oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to, obviously that's a very tricky one because if I haven't been there, I won't know.
Yeah.
So, what can I answer it in a slightly different way?
Of course you can.
That in the fact that I'm a sort of one man band, so to speak, one person band, and I'm not a big company or anything like that. I make a point, if I can, of meeting similar esque people to me who are doing similar things in other cities, so
Okay.
I can recommend them and vice versa. And I've met some lovely guides in other cities that I always recommend to people, and we try and do a sort of reciprocal thing. And
Yeah.
in fact, next month I did a video with a guy called Jonnie Whitlam in Berlin, who I've never met, but we actually did a video together about the fact that Rudolf Hess was held in the Second World War at the Tower of London. So I did that bit. And then he did the bit about him being tried at Nuremberg and being held at Spandau prison in Berlin. And then the reason I liked it was because he told me that they knocked the prison down and it became a supermarket that everyone called Hesco's. It was genius, isn't it?
Sorry.
So we did a video and we communicate quite a lot, but we've never met. But I'm actually going to Berlin next month, and I'm going to meet him in Berlin because I think it's nice to meet similar people who are doing stuff around the world whenever if I can,
Can I
then
ask a
see
question?
them.
Can I ask a question about?
Mm.
It's not even the final question.
Uh,
Blackheath. Do they really bury bodies on the heath?
no, that is a massive.
Oh man.
It's a massive urban myth, I'm afraid. Um, I'm not aware that a single person has ever been found there. I don't think anyone. It's just it comes from an old. Is it Anglo-Saxon? It meant black or bleak heath.
Yeah.
So it was either bleak or black. The color of the soil was black, and it's the same thing happens with Gravesend. This is where they stop burying people. It's just completely made up. Or the other one is there's a pop somewhere out west. What is it? It's got a similar deathy kind of thing, and it's just not got nothing to do with it. It's fish. It's something to do with. I can't think now what the name is. Is anyway. So it's completely not true, I'm afraid. But I mean, do keep on telling people because everyone
Well,
loves
I will. Because that's
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
that's what we were always told growing up. That the reason why it was called
Yeah.
Blackheath is because of all the people who died during the plague got buried on the heath. That's what they told us.
No, not no. I don't know. Sorry.
No, all
There
right.
are other burial places around
Where?
where people. Great one is great one is Charterhouse, Smithfields. That's a 1348 Black Death burial site. So
Seriously?
yeah, there's probably they don't really know. There was estimated maybe up to 50,000 people. This is, I think, was when like a third of the whole population died in the 14th century. The amazing thing is that there's a primary school next door, and kids they use it as their playground. And the teachers stand in high vis marking off the gates, and the children are just running around screaming. Um, and there's dead people a matter of feet below their feet. And I've been there in the summer, and people are sitting having picnics and quaffing wine, and I've gone, "Do you know there's dead people?" No, I haven't. I haven't really. That would be horrible, wouldn't it? Imagine there's dead people everywhere.
But
Yeah,
I can't. It's not the same thing. But I always have a similar reaction of like, what are you doing? You know, when the tide goes out on the River Thames, and
oh
I see them where
yeah,
I live, and I'll see them along the South Bank, and people will just be sitting on the banks of the River Thames having their lunch because the tide has gone completely out. And I'm always
yeah,
thinking, have you checked your time? Because that tide is going to come in, and it's going to
yeah,
come
yeah.
in really, really, really quickly.
People do get caught out. I mean, in terms of dead people as well. I mean, I've got I know a few mudlarks. You know, the people who go
Yeah,
searching for stuff. And there's a wonderful woman called Nicola White. Known her for about 10 years or so, and a long time ago, she was out walking, and her dog found the entire skeleton of a guy because the waters, you know, all the boats kind of make it all recede the
yeah.
shore, and it had uncovered it. So she obviously called the police, and they did tests on it, and then they, I think, reported back saying, "Don't worry, it's a 24-year-old guy, died in the mid 17th century. Here you go, have his jawbone." So she's still
She
got his
kept it.
jawbone. Yeah, but she's found high explosives and stuff. She's had to call them to detonate things that she's found. You know, like that still grenades and stuff. So yeah, I think it
Wow.
was her dog at the time that found it. Which probably isn't a surprise.
No, no. Okay, so
There you go.
finally, that
Oh,
is. Oh, gone.
opening of a book there. Opening of a book for you. A
Well, it was.
mudlark.
Well, that was the jig. Well, that was the Jigsaw Man. That's how it opened with the
Oh, okay.
mudlarkers
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Greenwich.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There we
and
go.
the
Yeah,
guy, one of the mudlarkers, he found an arm. I think it was an eye. He found an arm because I see them all the time when I'm out walking in the
yeah.
morning. I see the mudlarkers,
Well, I
and you
still
know they're
haven't
look.
recovered covered from the head in Ladywell Fields by the tennis court. You know, from the
Well,
first one. Yeah,
for just for accuracy, Johnny's talking about my book, not an actual
yeah,
head.
yeah.
I don't think
Oh
a
yeah,
head
yeah,
has
yeah,
been
yeah, yeah,
found.
yeah. Sorry, sorry.
I don't think
Yeah,
a head has been found in Ladywell Fields yet.
no, no. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So finally, Johnny Fielding, aka
Mm.
Bowl of Chalk, to end our coffee break, which book, film, show, or video game do you recommend?
Wow. Well, my own book.
I love it.
No
Bowl of
toilet
Chalk.
should be without one. I'm just trying to think. Actually, what I'll do is so many. I'll tell you one that I'm reading at the moment.
Okay.
It's a historical novel that was written by a guy called I can't remember where it is. It's somewhere. Arthur Morrison. As you can. Oh, here we go. Can I hold it up?
Yeah, of course you can.
It's called A Child of the Jago, and it was written in the 19th century. And the thing that's interesting about it, it was sort of highlighting poverty in East London, and it
Hmm.
was about a slum called the Old Nickel Rookery. And the Old Nickel Rookery got knocked down to create the first ever council estate in the UK, which is called Arnold Circus. And this is all set in. He fictionalized it, and he called it the Jago. But yeah, it's quite cool because this kid's running around. I mean, it's super rough area. It's like as in. Have you ever heard of Charles Booth's poverty map?
No.
There's a, 1889, there's a guy called Charles Booth created a map of London that was color coded so you could see where all the wealth and the poverty was. So yellow is all sort of wealthy aristocrats, a lot of pink, red, middling sorts, and then the bottom rung is black. And he called them basically semi-criminal and vicious. It's really harsh. the average life expectancy was like 16 because of infant mortality rates. And it's set in there. So it's just because I do walks around there. So it's quite
Yeah.
interesting. It was a contemporary account, and published at the time.
See, and if you were
Anyway,
to,
so
if I was going to say before we go, you couldn't really. I mean, well, you could do it now, but everywhere's become so gentrified. Like all the different areas, what you probably would have considered, I would say, working class, poor, and upper class. They've all kind of meshed together.
yeah, it's got melded. I mean
Mm.
that, yeah. I mean, going back full circle, that's appeared in Luther and quite a few TV dramas actually recently. So yeah.
Do you have before we go? Do you have a show that you've enjoyed, like a London-based show that you feel like they've made a good use of locations, so you haven't walked away thinking, "Well, you got that wrong." Like, I was going to say that's a film though. When For Dark World, and he gets on the Jubilee line at Charing Cross to go to
Oh,
Greenwich, and you're like, you
oh,
can't do that.
no, yeah. I tell you, actually, no, I don't. I can't off the top of my head. I can't. But there was one which was The Darkest Hour with Winston Churchill. Have you seen The Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman playing Winston
No, I've seen
Churchill?
it, but I haven't watched it all the way through.
And there's a scene that takes place on the Underground, and Winston Churchill has this sort of epiphany, and he chats to people, and it's a fictionalized thing.
Yeah.
But you're going, hang on, he's gone one stop. How the hell's he managed to do this and all that, And but in a way, I don't mind. There's a King and Conquerors out at the moment with
Yeah.
James Norton and a guy from and people get really hung up on, oh, they wouldn't have worn that. Oh, he's got the wrong tash. It's just like,
Let it
get
go.
over it. Let it go, man. It's yeah, wrong with it. So no, I'm not. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head, at all. Sorry.
That's all right.
That's
It's
really
no
bad. That was your
apologies.
last question as well, wasn't it?
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. That was my extra question that popped into
Okay,
my
yeah, we
head.
can cut that. Yeah. Um,
Well, that just
cool.
leaves me, Jonnie Fielding, aka Bowl of Chalk, author of Why is Downing Street Painted Black and 364 Fun London Facts. Just leaves me to say thank you so much for joining us for our. I'm going to say this should supposed to be like a 30-minute coffee break, but it was like
Is it?
we haven't gone back to work yet.
Oh,
So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for joining me.
Right. No, thank you. Pleasure. And yeah, good. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me for a coffee break. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. And remember, you can also listen to The Conversation Coffee Break and the OG, The Conversation Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to be a guest, send me an email at theconversation@nadinemattheson.com. Thank you for spending your break with me. See you next time.